Welcome to Happy Hour with Haley. I'm Haley Chura, and this week's co-host is Katie-Treston Torney. Welcome back, Katie.
I am so excited for our second recording together.
I'm excited to have you back, and I think we need to address the happy hour part of this show immediately. I need a drink, and I am curious, did you bring a beverage?
Brought a beverage, but I am still deep in Ironman training, so my beverage is a San Pellegrino
That's
blood
so
orange.
pretty. I love the can.
Isn't it so pretty? It's from Costco. It's delightful. I love it. I did have one on the bike today too, and it was
And
amazing.
it's a seltzer.
What?
Oh, I
It's
mean,
a
for people who can't
seltzer.
see, it has like a nice like Italian striped print on the can. And so you can drink seltzer on the bike.
I can, yeah. I call it stomach training. I was craving it. So gummy bears and San Pellegrino hit the spot today.
Do you bring in the seltzer at a certain point in the bike ride, or can you do it right from the get-go?
Right from the get-go. So today you gave me a 2-hour ride with short intervals, but the intervals were short enough that I could eat anything and drink anything. So I think I had at like the 45-minute mark today.
Okay.
It was lovely. But
okay.
tell me your drink. You're part of corporate America nowadays. So what is your nightcap?
Yeah, I talked last week. I am not doing dry January. I'm not sober, but it's not an alcoholic drink. Again, I don't know what's wrong with me right now. I just like can't can't get myself to drink alcohol. But I have a fun glass, and this is actually an interactive drink today. So I have this glass, and here's what I'm going to do. I have some lemon Spindrift seltzer that I'm supposed to pour in halfway, because you're supposed to put in a bubbly drink, and then have you ever tried one of these? It's like a glitter bomb. It's a cotton
Wow.
candy glitter
I'm
bomb.
excited.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try it. So you drop it in here into like I think it's supposed to be champagne. Again, I didn't have
I
any.
love it.
So we're doing it in seltzer, and we're going to see what's happening. It feels like a little bit like a science experiment. But we're having okay, so here's what it looks
As a
like.
woman in STEM, I am really excited right now.
Okay, so we're going to drop it in.
It looks like cotton candy for those of us that can't see.
Thank you.
It appears to be like a cotton candy apparatus.
And it's strawberry.
And a moment of silence for the
I think
fizz.
it's supposed to be strawberry. That is a nice fizz. I wonder if the microphone is picking up the fizz.
It is. Well, I can hear it on my end. I hope it is.
That looks pretty fancy. I mean,
it is. So cheers.
Cheers.
Enjoy your drink.
It's so good. Next time I
I
will
love that
send
for
you
you.
one of these. Came in a 4-pack, and it is called Art of Sucre. Wait, Sucre? I don't know. Strawberry Fields Cotton Candy Glitter Bomb. I recommend. It's very
Not
fun.
sponsored, but hit us up if you want to sponsor us, because it looks
We
pretty
are
good.
prime for any kind of beverage sponsor. That is very true. But yes, cheers to this late afternoon recording. I want to get a update on your training. So we talked a few weeks ago, and we mentioned I coach you. You are a professional athlete, a professional triathlete, and you are currently training for Ironman New Zealand. You live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which at this time of year is not known for great training weather. And most of the United States has not had great training weather for the past week or so. So how are things going?
Things are good. Our weather is horrendous. We have gotten so much snow. Our wind chills have been hanging right around -20 almost every day. It has been treacherous, but I am a human that doesn't really mind the trainers. Training is going good. I had a big weekend last weekend. I had a 5-hour ride, a pretty hard runoff, and then a hard run the next day. And it felt hard, but also my body's recovering from it. So that's a really good sign. I'm ready to be able to train outside. I feel like the depths of training where you're tired and it's very much no workout. Do you feel spunky and fresh? That fatigue is starting to really set in, but the body feels like it's responding good, which is really exciting.
That is exciting, and I think we are about 5 weeks out. Do I have that right? From
Yeah,
Ironman New Zealand?
5 weeks.
Which is very much, like, in it with Ironman training. I do think it's, we're building, 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 and when you get about, like, 6 to 4 weeks out, it's when you're like, "I can't do this." I mean, that's how I remember it. It's just that's when you're hitting those really big key sessions, and then even some, I love a back-to-back session as a coach and as an athlete because I think that helps the demands of Ironman without, like, quite hitting the full demands of Ironman, so you don't need so much recovery, but you are running hard off the bike, off that first bike ride, and then the next day running hard. And I think the first run was fairly short, maybe like 25, 30 minutes. I don't have your
Yeah.
training plan in front of me. And then the second run was a lot longer, but doing it the next day on tired legs. And we're not running a full marathon, but you get kind of the feeling that you get in the second half of a marathon where I'm sure when you woke up that next day, you were like, the last thing I want to do right now is run.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what can you give your body during the efforts and after the efforts to let you do the effort the next day. I feel like any of us can survive a training session in isolation, but it's that stacking up and doing it day after day, and trying to manage the fatigue and the stress of work with training. And we've had so many snow days up here for the tiny humans. So trying to balance all of that and not expecting perfection, but just expecting to do it every day. I really appreciate this motto that Alexi Pappas says that when you're in the thick of training, 30 your workouts should be terrible, 1/3 your workout should be fine, and then 1/3 your workout should feel really good. And as long as you're keeping that balance, that's where you should be. And she talked about that before her Olympic performance, and that really resonated with me. You don't need every workout to feel great. It's okay for some of them to feel really hard, and that's where it feels like I'm at right now. So it's good. It's reassuring.
Wait, which bucket would you put that 5-hour ride in?
It depends on if you ask me during or after when I was sitting on my couch, because during there was some hatred in my heart towards that. So a little recap on the ride. It was a 25-minute and then recovery 20, 15, 10, 15, 20, 25. And those blocks were all at Ironman watts. And so you start with a long effort, but looming over you throughout the whole 5 hours is that you have to do another 25 right at the end.
It's on purpose.
I know, but when you're in it, I was like, man, I don't feel great right now at this 10-minute effort, and I'm still 4 away from this 25-minute effort. So it was a mental workout. And I would say it was one of those, like, it was good. It was fine. It was a mental workout. Now looking back on it, I'm like, I think that was one of the hardest rides that I've done, and so I feel really proud of that, and proud that that ride came when it did, when we were stacking a lot of fatigue on it. Yeah, and then I had a run the next day, and that run felt hard but okay, and this week has felt good, so that puts it more into perspective as well.
Yes, absorb that work. When you talk about the mental part of breaking up a big workout like that, it sounds like you don't necessarily think of it as 25, 20, 15. You think of it as 1, 2, 3. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're just
I
counting the
mean,
intervals no matter the duration.
yeah, each interval is created equal, and when I'm actually in the effort, I never the only thing I let myself look at is the recovery that comes right after it. And when you give me the harder efforts, if it's a 25-minute effort, I tend to get a little bit more recovery, and so I try and make myself focus on the fact that I have a longer recovery right after, and I'm like, great, I can turn on YouTube during my recovery. I can, sit up, eat a little bit, and just find little things that make me excited. And when I'm, like, truly in the depths of it, I will oftentimes play games with my gummy bears. Like, if I had a 25-minute effort, I would break it down into 5-minute efforts, and then each 5 minutes I got to eat one of my gummy bears that were, like, stacked in front of me. And so that made it a little bit of a game as well.
You
Do you have a key workout when you were, like, building for Kona that you remember? Like, what was your big workout?
There's one I didn't do it this last Kona, but 2 Konas ago, I did, like, I was outside, which was a little bit nice, but I did 6 by 30-minute hill climbs on a local hill. And that was legit. Like, that was one of those rides that, and I don't think I did them all like super hard. Like, there might have been some like break up between or some descending efforts. I don't know exactly, but it was a long workout. I think it took more than 6 hours, and with like descending and getting to the hill and back. And it ended up being a very long workout. And then I probably ran off of that. And I do remember that just as a memory in my head of like, wow, what a workout. And I was so fit at that time. And I also like telling people I've ridden this local climb 6 times because I usually get a good reaction out of that. It helps put the work into perspective. I don't know if people really know like how hard 25 minutes at certain watts on the trainer is, but if you say you climbed this hill 6 times, they're like, wow.
Yeah. How do you feel before you're going into those workouts? Like, do you get like anxious? Are you like nervous? Are you excited? Like, what goes through your brain when you know you have such a big workout to come?
Well, typically when you have that kind of a workout, I think you're pretty tired. Like, you've gotten to that point where you have the fitness to even attempt a workout like that. You're probably pretty tired. So most mornings I would probably wake up and be like, no, I don't want to do this. Why can't I be a normal person who lays in bed on Saturday morning? And then, and then I would get going, and I like a long warm up. And so I think it usually takes me about 45 to 50 minutes to get to the hill. And I allow myself to go very easy. And, I can ride at less than 100 watts, which is very, very easy for our listeners who aren't familiar with watts. So it's like very slow. And I just give myself as much time as I need to get there. Nice little warm up. When I was doing a workout like that, I would bring a backpack with like snacks and drinks because there isn't a way to carry everything or a store nearby. And so I'd leave this backpack with a note on it that said, please don't move. I need it. Like, I'm doing hill repeats. I learned that one the hard way when a kind fisherman took it one time. But so I leave a note on there, and then I just start. And I never honestly feel ready to start, but it's like, okay, the time's going to pass no matter what. I might as well be doing the workout. And I often find it goes better than you think. And when you do a hill repeat like that, you also get to like see some of the same people. There'd be people rock climbing on the side of the road at one turn. And so I would kind of check in with myself when I got to the rock climbers. And then I would also give myself a little like pat on the back because I almost always, or I think always, outlasted them. So these are like young rock climbers. And I was like, oh, I can ride my bike longer than you can rock climb, which I do recognize it's a very different skill and very hard. But I'd see some of the same, people fishing. I would see people riding. And some people would cheer me on. And I was out there for longer than most people. And so I think that I'd also just appreciate the beauty sometimes when you get to be outside. And that's one perk of being outside versus on the trainer. And then at a certain point, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I have done a lot. Go me. And I'd remind myself of the demands of Ironman and how I want to be ready for that race, because I think to race an Ironman, especially, and at the pro level, you want to be at your very best, and you want to be your fittest, and you want to be on that start line knowing that you did everything you could to put yourself in the best position to have a really good day. And so I'd remind myself that I'm like, you're doing this now so that when you're on that start line for that Ironman, no matter what happens, you gave yourself the best chance to have a great day. And that was the best gift I could give myself. So, and then I think, telling myself after this repeat, I'm going to stop and see what treats I had in my bag. That does help. The food motivation does help. I've seen you do a candy salad. Is that what you do when you're on the trainer?
I do, yes. Gummy bears, nerd clusters, and then whatever's still left over from Halloween. So a little sprinkling of everything else.
It's like February.
I mean, it's not going to go bad, right? I mean, have you seen how many treats come for Halloween? My tiny human came home with a lot, and I was like, there's no way you're having this much sugar, so we'll just store it.
Your son can trick-or-treat that much that you can have as much candy in October to still last you in February.
Well, I mean, my candy consumption has definitely taken a drastic increase with the increase in training volume. I mean, I didn't need a lot of gummy bears and Skittles a month ago. That was pretty few and far between. And now we're going through it quite quickly. So I'm due. I could use some new stuff. But I have this. So when I do master swim, there is a lovely human who's always in my lane, and her name's Barb. And Barb is an incredible swimmer. And one day I kind of hit the wall during master swim. It was a long workout. I was so hungry. So I got out and I have my, in case of emergency, gummy bears in my swim bag. So I was standing on the pool deck just eating my gummy bears. And she's like, "Are you eating those?" And I was like, "Yes." And so she brought me single ingredient gummy bears that she found from Walmart. And they're these little fish.
What is the
She
single
claims that they're healthy
ingredient?
for
Sugar?
you. I don't know. I mean, it would have to be, right? And they're red, so I'm like, there has to be some dye in here too. But it was a really kind gesture. They taste really good, and so I appreciate the candy gifts that come at this point of training.
That's a great gift. And thing to keep you going is great. And I also appreciate that sometimes even during a swim, you do need some calories. I think that was something I learned, just even though we can't do that during the race, like you're not necessarily going to take in calories during the race. I think that when you are training so much, like you aren't always in a race simulation type of situation. And sometimes you want that performance. And so I think it can be worth bringing calories to a swim and having that, especially when we're doing longer swims and we want the second half of that swim to be as strong as the first.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, we talked a little bit when we first started about how cold it is up here. And a lot of us are starting to think about our spring races. So I would love to get your input on what your thoughts are on heat training and when you would start that. And specifically what you're thinking with me, but what you're thinking for all the listeners on if you are a proponent for heat training or, I've seen people on their bikes in like full body suits. Is that something that you subscribe to? Give me your thoughts on heat training.
Do not subscribe to the full body suit. So it depends on the person, which I know is not, and the person's goals and the race you're doing. And probably where you live and the conditions you're training in. And so I would say, do we think Ironman New Zealand is going to be hot?
In my mind, I'm going to put it at Kona level, and then anything better than that, I'm going to be like, such a beautiful day.
My goodness, I hope it
No,
isn't
but
Kona level.
right? I
Even
think it's
if
gonna
I'm
be in
there
the
cheering.
70s.
I mean, I guess
Oh,
that's warm compared to where you are, but I do not feel like that is Kona level. Like Kona level is
but
different. If we were
aim for the worst.
okay, but like, yeah, Kona is bad. And I think if you're training for Kona and if you're training as a pro for Kona, yes, I have done like sauna time leading into the race. And I am not someone, like I said, who wants to do a heat suit or ride the trainer without a fan or, do something in a sauna, do any exercise in a sauna. I feel like the risk for that, for me personally, and for most of the athletes I coach, it's too high of risk of like compromising that session. So I'm thinking when you're doing a training session, you want that session to go as well as possible. And I've never felt like I had the ability to, not waste a session, but like compromise that session. And because when you increase the heat, you're going to go slower. And so I want that session to be as good as possible. So I don't like compromising the actual session. What I have done is a sauna protocol, which I got years and years ago from exercise physiologist Stacy Sims. And since then, she has modified her guidance, especially for women. I honestly can't do her modified guidance. I think it's like doing the sauna for 30 days, like an entire menstrual cycle. And just, I, en- I would not enjoy life enough that I don't think I would make it to the race. So I usually do only a 10-day sauna protocol. And occasionally I will even take a day off. So it'll be like 9 or 8 days, just depending on how I'm feeling. And I kind of count backwards from the day I travel to the race site because you assume the race site is going to be the same temperature as the race. So you count backwards at least a week from when you arrive at the race site, and that's your recovery period, because I do think you need a recovery period so you don't go to the race super dehydrated and really, because it does wear you out. It's almost like doing another training session. So the 10 days before that, before the recovery period, so we're almost like we're more than 2 weeks, or more depending on how early you're getting to the race site. So you're like more than 2 weeks out from the race day. You start doing your sauna training, and I would usually do it at the last session of the day after my last training session. As soon as possible, go into the sauna, and I'm lucky there's a local gym that has a sauna and I can get there pretty quick. So you go in when you are dehydrated because you're a little bit dehydrated from whatever training session, and then I would sit there from anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, and the key was to not chug water while you're in there. So it's pretty uncomfortable. And I'd bring a magazine and read so I could ruin it and sweat all over it and kind of distract myself. And then after that 20 to 30 minutes, I would slowly rehydrate over the next 2 to 3 hours. The hard part with that is that you want to be done early enough so that you do not go to bed dehydrated. Because if you go to bed dehydrated, you're going to wake up the next morning feeling really, really, really bad. And then all your sessions the next day are really going to be compromised. So that's a good protocol for someone who has a very flexible schedule, who can allow the time to get their sessions done fairly early in the day, to go to the sauna and then rehydrate after. And so it's not for everyone. I don't think it's for everyone. And I think it's one of those things you need to talk about with your coach and or whoever trusted advisor you have. Like, is this worth it? There have been raised times when, even as a professional, I did not do any sauna training before a very hot race. I think back to Ironman Coeur d'Alene. I think it was 2021. That race was unexpectedly very, very hot. I had not done any sauna training. I live only 6 hours away. I assumed Coeur d'Alene would be very similar to where I was living, and this heat wave came into the Pacific Northwest, and it was wild. It was more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. They started the race at 5 a.m. to try to mitigate some of that. It was very, very hot, and I was not prepared. And so going into that race, knowing I was not ready for 100-degree heat, I made a conscious effort that during the race, I was going to do a better job with heat management. So on the bike, I slowed in those aid stations. I made sure I grabbed 2 bottles of water if I need it. I poured it on myself. I went a little bit slower, just knowing it was going to be a really, really hot day. I also ran with a water bottle that I could refill with ice and water. And the entire run, I think almost every single aid station, I was refilling it every single aid station. And I had at that time my fastest ever marathon off the bike. I ran a 3:05 that day, and I do think it showed that even if you're not prepared, if you can manage the heat, you can actually do pretty well. And so those are kind of the very long answer to a pretty simple question. But it does depend on the person and what they have access to.
Yeah, and I think it's also respecting how much it takes out of you being in the sauna. My first heat training protocol was Kona 2023, and I thought it was going to be lovely. I thought it would be a great way to end the training day. I thought it would feel great. And when you're stacking the sauna training on top of training and just that chronic a little bit of dehydration, because it is hard to get fully rehydrated after that, you underestimate how much that takes out of you. And if you're not optimizing your training, if you're not where you are in training, I don't think it's mandatory for everybody to do.
I agree. And I will say I'm in a very bad mood those 10 days. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
the first day you're like, oh, this is no big deal. But I end up in like such a bad mood. And my friends and family all kind of know. And sometimes your sessions will be worse. Like my power will drop on the bike. I can't make intervals in the pool. A run will feel harder. And I just feel generally bad, and sometimes I need a reminder from someone else being like, it's the sauna, it's not you. And it's a little scary to feel that way when you are 2 to 3 weeks from race day, to feel that bad. It is something I would not suggest taking lightly. Like, think about if it's really going to help you. And a lot of the time, I'd say for the majority of athletes, getting an extra hour of sleep is a better option.
Yeah, and kind of a caveat to that too, or an extension of that, I put out question for people to ask us questions for this podcast, and I had a couple people that sent in questions, which is so cool. But one of them is, are there any recovery modalities that you love? Is there anything that you really swear by? You know, we hear like cold plunge, compression socks, the Theragun massage tool. Are there any that you use and you really like?
I'm so old school. I love sleep. That's like truly the
Yeah.
only one. I can see the benefit. And years ago, I did talk to Kirsty Ashwanden, who had written a book on basically on recovery. And she had tried, like, she's a science writer, and she had tried almost every single recovery modality that out there. And I think the ones she found like scientific evidence for improvement were sleep, number one. That was like her number one suggestion. And then actually the second was, I think, the sensory deprivation chambers, like where you like just float in a pod, that there is some science to that. The everything else, like massage, sitting in recovery boots, they aren't necessarily bad. And I think she said that they could actually be good if they get you to like lay down and sit and rest, but you're not necessarily getting like a huge benefit. And I think cold plunge is actually, while I love a polar plunge, like for New Year's or something like that, or like running into a cold body of water, I actually think cold plunges are like kind of bad because sometimes we want that in, like, we want inflammation, right? When we're there training, then we want our body to recover from that on its own, and we don't necessarily want to like freeze everything up. But how about you?
Yeah,
Are you a big cold plunger?
absolutely not. I hate being cold, and I like heat training way better than the cold plunge. So I agree. Sleep to me is the most important thing, but sometimes I need something to like get me to the relaxation level of sleeping. So I have recovery boots. Do I think they're miracle workers? No, but they make me lay down for a half hour or an hour, and I really think that they just activate parasympathetic nervous system, and I can feel myself relaxing, and I feel just stress leaving, and then that puts me in a better spot for the rest of the day. Helps me go to bed easier, um, helps me sleep deeper. So I find benefit in that. I don't think it's mandatory if you can make yourself lay down on a couch. And then I like taking magnesium before I go to bed too. I know that's not for everyone, but I do find that I sleep a little bit better when I take it, especially on days that I have really hard workouts.
Do you have a brand or a type that you like? Because I feel like not all supplements are created equal. And honestly, I've tried magnesium and I feel like it kept me awake.
Interesting. I use Pillar Performance, their magnesium. It's a little elixir that you put into your drink. And so I make that kind of my staple at night when I'm sitting down on the couch with a family. I'll drink that. There are multiple different types of magnesium. Some are pro-motility agents, so they'll make you go to the bathroom if you haven't. So it's important that you're not taking a magnesium that causes GI distress. So what Pillar Performance does is they mix multiple different types of magnesium so the absorption's a little bit better. And in the increased absorption, you get more systemic effects, which at least to me makes me feel like I sleep better.
I mean, there's also a placebo thing that I believe is real. So
1000%.
I am
Mhm.
someone who definitely is, placebos work on me. And so if you believe it's working, it probably is. So I think that's a great question, though. I'm glad did we have any others?
We do. We have two other questions. We have an athlete who wrote in who has done a 70.3. They did the 70.3 in about 7.5 hours. Their goal is to do Ironman Florida, which is a flat course in November. And they're wondering, is this realistic? Do you have any tips or tricks that you would give somebody who is looking to do their first Ironman? And what your thoughts are and advice points for her.
Well, I'd say first thing, congratulations on deciding to do the Ironman. I think that's a huge first step. And it is February and you're looking at a November race. So there's a lot of room for improvement in that time. And I would just say probably the number one thing is probably time on the bike. I'm assuming, like, I don't know her swim background or her athletic background, but probably if you can be consistent with your time on the bike, that is the largest portion of the Ironman. And it is a portion where you can pick up a lot of time just through consistent training. And so I would say if you can just work on that, especially as the weather gets better through the summer, and just be really consistent on the bike, get in some longer rides, work that up to that. That's going to be probably my number one. Number two is just keep yourself moving. Like that is also what you have to do on race day is always be moving forward. And we talk about this with my athletes. Just it's okay to walk. I've walked in near I think probably every single Ironman I've ever done. And I have run sub 3 hours off the bike and even with walking. And the reason you walk is to get your heart rate down, to get calories in, to get fluids in, to cool off. But you always want to be doing like productive walking, I think. And so while you're walking, you are, like I said, doing those things, calories, fluids, cooling off. If you need to use the bathroom, just be as quick as possible and set that porta potty PR. Because if you can keep yourself moving, you will keep moving toward the finish line. And the things that kill you are stopping. Like you just really don't want to stop. And even if you can do the slowest jog possible, it is a little bit faster than walking. And so I encourage my athletes to kind of pick a point, pick a cone, pick a porta potty, pick a volunteer. And when you get to that point, get yourself going. But, and that's something you can train as well between now and then. Do you have tips?
It's similar. I would say this time of year, building a base and getting yourself a really strong aerobic base is so important. And finding joy and finding excitement in the process. So whether that means joining a master's swim group or getting in with a bike group, or finding a group to run with, I think it's so important to form a community around you that understands what you're doing, understands your goal, and November is a really long time away, so you have to enjoy between today and November and just find a love for the journey because you never know how race day is ultimately going to go. At the end of the day, it is all of the workouts that you remember. And I guess my advice would just be to find joy in the struggle and joy in the process and don't get too caught up in the race or in that November goal that you're forgetting all of these small milestones as you go. I also think it can be really helpful to put other things on the schedule as compared to like just Ironman Florida. So maybe that means some local bike races or bike rides or maybe a half marathon if that sounds good to you. But I think it's fun to have other smaller races on your schedule as you build up.
Yes, and good luck. And maybe write back to us and tell us how you're doing along your journey and of course in November. If we can keep this podcast going through November, we would like to celebrate you. So good luck.
Absolutely. We'll have a cheers with you.
Yes, maybe we do. We'll invite you on and we can do a cute cheers.
Yes.
Okay, what's our last question?
Okay, another question is when we are training and when you are in the height of your training, it takes a lot of hours and it feels like a very selfish endeavor. You're oftentimes doing a lot of these training modalities solo. So how do you form a community around yourself that understands what your goals are, understands when you can't go out and have a drink or you don't go out and have a drink at night? How do you explain when you feel angry because you're in sauna training to those people that are in your life? And so this person wrote in and said, I don't know, and I would love advice on how to have my husband understand the level of training I'm doing, the amount of energy that it takes out of you while you're in the height of training.
I mean, I don't have a husband, so I feel like you should answer this one first.
I, it just needs to be an open conversation. I have a very open conversations with my husband in what I need, what I'm doing. And we've also been together for a long time, and he's gone through a lot of these training cycles with me. And I try and verbalize what I'm feeling and not expect him to know how I'm feeling. So if I had a really hard 5-hour ride and I feel tired and grumpy and overstimulated, I try and just say those things so that he knows. And oftentimes he's more than willing to help. He just doesn't know what I need. And sometimes I need like an egg and a toast, and other times I just need like a moment of silence. And so really trying to advocate for what you need and having them be a teammate along the way. You know, people in your life want to support you, but you need to let them know how you need to be supported. And I think the biggest thing is just putting words to how you're feeling and not expecting other people to read your mind. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard. And I think it's honestly like this with like a lot of things in life. I will say, while I was training, I definitely did live a slightly different lifestyle than I guess the average middle-aged woman sometimes. But I also kind of kept a small bubble, and part of that, I'm lucky I live in a small community where people really do value exercise. And so I don't feel that weird here in Bozeman, going out for runs a lot, going for long bike rides. It's very much part of the culture. And most of the people worked with on a daily basis during that time were also athletes. The athletes I coach, most of the people in my life are athletes. And sometimes I need a reminder that that's not normal, that there is more going on in life, and Ironman isn't normal and everyone doesn't do an Ironman. Because I think that helps also realize how cool what you're doing is. I also think there is a bit that life won't always be this way. And hopefully you can tell people that, this is a time in your life when you are physically capable of undertaking this big physical and mental endeavor, and it won't always be this way. Because even for me, it is not like that anymore. It has been a few months, and now my priorities have shifted, and maybe now I would go out to drinks, except I took on a lot of jobs, so I filled my time otherwise. But I think, there's seasons in life and there's seasons in the year, and sometimes it is going to be like right now I'm going to focus on this training and I'm going to be tired and I have this big goal, and hopefully the people that you love and respect and who love and respect you will give you that time and space and support, especially if you tell them that you need it and explain it won't always be that way.
I agree. That's really good. And you said it a little bit, but you made a big life shift. So, how are you? How is life right now? I'd love to hear about this shift from being a professional athlete and now you're in corporate America. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? What's changed? Are you working out? Do you have a favorite workout of the week?
Oh my goodness. I did take a job as a full-time job with a public accounting firm, which it's the same job I had 15 years ago, which is very bizarre. So this is not a very normal situation, and it is tax season, and so I am very busy with work. I'm an auditor. I don't do taxes, but it's still busy season. And so anyone who's in public accounting does know it's a lot. And I don't know if I'd recommend like shifting straight from professional athlete and Kona, and especially the things I did post Kona, right into a full-time job with seasonal work when it's very busy. But I'm up for the challenge, and I think part of me was like, okay, let's see if I can do this, and I think that I have to remind myself a lot that it's okay if I'm not as good as I was when I was 25. I do have the more life experience, but to be perfectly honest, I struggle with like some of the software and Microsoft Teams. I'm like, what is this? And why do people keep sending me these little like clips of things? And I'm like, how do I share my screen? When I did this job 15 years ago, it was also very in person, and now I am fully remote, which is very different. And I like it because I really, really value living in Montana and the lifestyle I have right now. But it is an adjustment from how I did the job before. And to have that kind of go like total switch is very different. There's a piece of me that's like, how in the world did I get this work done while also commuting? I don't know how I did that. I'm working, with a lot of people on the East Coast, and I'm in mountain time. So I have some like very early mornings sometimes, and it's still relatively flexible. I have been able to swim twice a week this week, and so some mornings, my colleagues know I come in a little bit later because I am in mountain time, and so far I think I'm getting the hang of it and getting into a routine, but it's hard. It's definitely hard. But I think also after 12 years of a lot of financial insecurity, being a professional athlete and I had my coaching, but it's not quite the same. And getting those paychecks has been kind of nice and not having to like email someone for years asking if I'm going to get paid, is really wild. It's very wild. And it's like almost uncomfortable. And I'm a little ashamed of how comfortable I got with that financial insecurity. And I think there's like some value in that. I am still coaching, and so I still have that, and I'm exercising a lot less. I have been, like I mentioned, swimming. I have been running quite a bit. And here in Montana, we've had unseasonably warm weather. And I had I think, 19-day streak in January of running in shorts, which is wild. I did break that. It got a little cold. I had to wear pants for a few days. But I ran in shorts yesterday, and
My
um
gosh.
that's kind of been my highlight of the week. Has just been running in
Yeah.
shorts. I have been running pretty easy. Kind of on trails in the snow, a little bit of snow, but doing some longer runs, which I just like enjoy. And I know that for maximum fitness, doing just aerobic running is not what you do for performance, but it has been enough for me to kind of get that buzz of exercise and to also allow myself, like, we don't have to go hard all the time. And I think that I might get to the point where I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to do some hill repeats, or I want to like try a tempo run, maybe, but also I'm just really enjoying just running. I haven't worn a watch on a training run since October, so I have no idea how far I'm running, how long I'm running. I have definitely like had to text some people, and I was like, I went too far. I'm not going to make it back in time for dinner or something like that. The one thing I want to make more time for in the coming weeks is the gym. I feel like I haven't done such a good job with that, and I can feel it in the water, especially. Like, my core strength is really bad right now, and I'm like, I need to actually go do some core. So, a couple weeks ago, Samantha Rothberg, who was on our show, gave us some core exercises and some strength exercises, and one of them was dead bugs, which I did slowly per her recommendation in the gym the other day, and they were great. They were great. I needed it. I felt it the next day. So that's something I have to work on.
That sounds lovely. You know, I was listening to something that Alistair Brownlee said, and he is also a retired professional triathlete. And he said it's such a privilege to just go out on a ride without anything on the schedule. And then intermittently, you'll get this like desire to just do a hill repeat and to just go all out and to just do 30 seconds and know that that's okay. And I think it's really cool that you're maintaining fitness and finding fun workouts and where they fit in your new life. And I think that's really awesome. And I also need to do a better job at those dead bugs. I saw it on the YouTube and I was like, that looks lovely. And then I have yet to do it.
It's
But I
harder
will do
than
it.
it looks, especially to
Way
go
harder.
slow. Like, thinking
Yes.
about this slowing down was revolutionary for some reason. But if you are in the cold, it's a good time to go to the gym if it's not too crowded. Are you nervous at all about not having done a lot outside going into an Ironman in March?
You know, this is definitely not my first early season Ironman. I've done Ironman Texas now 3 times, and the story is always the same for me that if I can get one outdoor ride before Ironman Texas, it feels like a win. So I'm just expecting that I'm not going to be able to ride until we land in New Zealand, and that's okay. I think there is a lot of benefit in training your mind and training your body into sitting in the TT position when you're on your trainer. I mean, you get so used to that core, that power, getting comfortable in TT that sometimes when I ride outside, I'm much more of a fluid rider with sitting up, making sure I'm not around traffic, looking around, that I have very few roads that I can actually sit in TT and do. That 25-minute effort that you put on my 5-hour ride would have been very difficult for me to find a stretch that I felt safe enough to stay in my TT bars and go for that long. So it is pluses and minuses. I definitely ride harder on the trainer than I do outdoors, all in large. So no, I'm not nervous about it, but I am thankful that I've done it before. But I would say if an early season Ironman or early season half Ironman is on your schedule, it's fine if you live in the north and you're going and that's one of your first times outside. Ironman is I don't know any Ironman courses that I would consider technical. That would be the only thing that I would have pause for if there was
Nice.
some cornering or yes, niece, but that's not early season
Oh,
though, so you should have some
early season. I missed that part.
but that is probably the most
Lanzarote is
technical.
like, May,
Yeah,
but
May.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
I didn't realize that one was technical. I thought it was more just a wind and the heat.
I don't know. I
Is it
haven't done
technical
it. I
too?
haven't done it, but I think there's some ups and downs, but maybe more technical than, Ironman Texas on a highway. So it's all
So
relative. It's a spectrum.
yeah. And I mean, I found a way to crash at Ironman Texas too when there
Oh.
was like nothing there. So it'll be fine. But we did actually have some interesting news come out in Ironman World. All of
Yeah.
the
Wait, I
pros.
want to hear
Oh,
about your thoughts on this.
well, I want to hear your thoughts about it too. But all of the pros, it has always been that you have to be 12 meters behind the bike in front of you. And that, to my knowledge, since I've been in the sport, that's how it's always been. I believe that's how it has been since the creation of Ironman. But
I think
Ironman did.
since
Oh,
the
is it
policing of drafting. I feel like the early days,
fair?
there's when there were like
Okay.
12 people.
No rules. No
I
rules.
think they had like cars that were like handing them drinks in those days. But the
How lovely does that
the
sound?
drafting rules came later. I think that's a slightly more
Yes.
recent invention. But yes, I think as long as they've had drafting rules, it was 12 meters, which I understood was because I think the dashes on the road in Hawaii are 12 meters apart. So it was just an easy visual
Interesting.
to kind of see how far apart you were supposed to be.
Yeah. And so Ironman did some independent training in Arizona, and they realized that there is still quite a draft benefit when you're at 12 meters and less of a draft benefit at 20 meters. And it felt like there was a lot of pressure from the professional triathletes to increase the drafting zone. I've seen a lot of people post about it over the last, I feel like there's definitely been an increase in the cadence of posting about it over the last 6 months. And we heard earlier this week that all pros will now be increased to a 20-meter draft zone. So for Ironman New Zealand, we'll be racing with Race Ranger. So it's a small computer that goes on all of the pros' bikes. And then you see the computer on the bike in front of you. If you are legally riding, it will flash a certain color. And then if you are illegally riding, if you are in the draft zone, it flashes red. And so we'll be able to police that. It'll be interesting. I guess my gut reaction is I'm great with it. That's fine with me. But where I have the biggest problem is the packs of age group men that catch me. So I wish that we would
Because
be
their drafting rule is still 12
because
meters.
yes, and all in large, there are a lot of rules being broken sometimes with just packs of people riding, and they're not even riding in the legal draft pack. And they won't race with Race Ranger. So I think I don't have strong feelings one way or another. I love an honest race. I love that more people get to be more independent, and those people that are leading the race, then it's similar to everybody else who's in line behind them. I do have some pause for when we have a 3-loop bike course. Is there enough room for everybody to be that spread out? Especially like for Oceanside, Oceanside's already sold out. Like it's closed. So does that mean 70 or 80 pros will be on the course? And that's a lot of real estate for everyone to be spaced out that far.
That's a good point. That'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to race at 20 meters in a lot of the Clash races and the PTO races and T100 races. Those all had 20-meter draft zones. So, and I think some of the Clash races I did without Race Ranger. And then all of the PTO and T100 races, we had Race Ranger. A few times it wasn't working. And so I think they've worked some bugs out. I do think Race Ranger makes it a lot easier. It takes away the guessing of how far is 20 meters. Because like I mentioned, when it was 12 meters in Hawaii, you could use the dashes on the road to kind of evaluate your position and like make sure you're riding the right amount, because your brain, it's hard. It's hard to judge 12 meters. It's hard to judge 20 meters. And so it is really nice to have Race Ranger. When I haven't had Race Ranger, I think you kind of err on the side of trying to stay further back because you don't want that penalty, especially how far, how hard it could be. Clash Miami, 20 meters. And I think it's a really small loop. We were okay. Like, I actually felt like it was fine. I mean, because we were able to spread out enough. I don't remember how many people were in that race. The passing was very, if you're getting passed, you're getting passed. Like, it wasn't, I don't remember the slotting in being that bad or anything like that. And a lot of the T100 races, I know that those aren't as many athletes and we don't have the age groupers, but I felt like people really respect the 20-meter zone and did a good job with that. And I don't think it was ever like necessarily too crowded. I think the nature of those courses, they're fairly technical. And so you'd have times when you could make passes. I guess on a course like Kona, maybe you could end up with like a huge, huge long line. And it's really, really hard for people to make that pass. I do think they'll probably increase the duration to make a pass. I think with 12 meters, it was 25 seconds. And I think with 20 meters, it's typically 45 seconds. So you have longer to pass each person. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think for me personally, I had a strong swim, and so I was never usually sitting in a group. I was often getting past because if people had caught up to me, they were going a lot faster than me. But I do see how it could impact the race because there have been times when people coming out at a certain point could work together and work their way up to the front. And maybe it changes that dynamic a little bit when they have to be a little bit further apart. I think for the women's race, there just aren't as many. The numbers aren't as big. So I don't know if we're going to see these huge impacts. I think it might impact the men's race a little bit more just because there's more of them. And I honestly think they draft more. So I think, they're the ones who are going to be impacted a little bit more. I do wonder how it's going to play out with the age groupers. And because they are going to be able to go move faster. The age group men are going to be able to move faster, having only 12 meters between them. I hope Ironman is putting in some plans to maybe make the gap between the pro women and the age groupers bigger. I don't know if you've seen any schedule for Ironman New Zealand, if there's any change to that. But that would be one of the things, a way to mitigate that is to make that gap bigger so that those fast age group men, it does take longer for them to catch up to the back of the pro women's field. I mean, kudos to Ironman for listening to the chatter and doing some testing and publishing that testing and seeing how this goes. I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm really excited. When you were racing, could you feel a big difference between 12 and 20?
No. No.
Okay.
But again, I wasn't usually sitting in a pack. I wish I was fast enough to ride with some of those women that came by me, but usually I kind of had to. I was just getting past. And I think when I would ride behind people, mostly there is a big psychological benefit sometimes to riding with people, especially for me as someone who was getting past a lot. It was, I'm staying with someone, and that I felt that at 12 meters and I felt it at 20. I don't think I necessarily noticed big changes in my power at 12 meters versus 20. And so I think the psychological benefit was a bigger one, and that you're going to get that if you're at 20 or if you're at 12.
Regardless. Yeah. Well, Haley, we have a big event that starts this week that I am so excited about. We have opening ceremonies for the Winter Olympics. Starts this Friday at Easter. It's 2 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m.
That's
Mountain
noon
time.
for me. No. We're earlier.
No.
If you're 2 p.m., I'm noon.
Oh, yeah. You're right. You're 12. So are you interested in the Winter Olympics? Will you watch it? What are your thoughts?
I live in a wintry place, so I love it. I mean, I love the Olympics. I extra love the Winter Paralympics, and that's because a lot of Paralympians actually train in Bozeman, and so I've gotten to know a few of them, which those come a month after the Olympics, but the Olympics can be like the little precursor for the Paralympics. But I love love all things Olympics. And I think I'm very excited to watch the skiing. I grew up skiing. I don't ski now, but I think the downhill skiing, super fun to watch. Lindsey Vonn making her comeback
Okay,
after
so
age
she
40.
crashed
Oh,
today.
she did? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Is
she
she okay?
did. So nothing has come out yet. She was airlifted to the hospital. They said that they haven't pulled her out of the Olympics yet, but more
No.
information to follow. But she is one of my favorite storylines for the Olympics, and
No.
my heart is breaking. But they did say knee injury. She's had a pretty extensive knee injury history. So
No.
if we could just send some positive vibes that she will get to the start line, because she has had the most incredible build back up, and it's so fun to watch somebody who was at the top of their sport, retired, and then came back. And it's just, I think her story is so wholesome, and sending all the positive vibes to her.
Yes, positive vibes. Okay, you obviously know what's happening much better than I do. What are you looking forward to?
No. I too love alpine skiing. I love Nordic skiing. Jessie Diggins has announced that she's going to retire after this Olympics. And I love her positivity. I love her excitement for sport. I love her excitement in the process. And I also think it's really special when an athlete can announce their retirement and go out with like the pomp and circumstance of like the race. And so I think that's really special. And she said, I am still having so much fun in this sport. My life priorities are just shifting. And so that's when I feel like it's time for me to step away. And so I think it'll be really fun to watch her. I'm really excited. I love watching figure skating, and I'm excited for skimo. Have you ever done any ski mountaineering before? I feel like Bozeman would be an incredible place for
It
it.
is an incredible place. People definitely do it. And backcountry skiing are like, when you get to like, you put the like skins on your skis and you ski uphill.
Yeah.
That always interested me. I've had some friends who were into it. I always told them if I got top 10 in Kona, I would buy a backcountry skiing setup. And I never did that. The highest I got was 13th. And so I never had made that investment. But I love the idea of it. The skimo, I think you're on actually like, I mean, sometimes you're hiking up you put the skis on your back and you're hiking up a hill and then you ski down. And so I think that is very interesting. New addition to the Olympics. And I'm sure it's a little different and, Olympicized for these games, but I know I read about that Anna Gibson, who's like a trail runner who qualified, and she didn't
Yeah.
have like an extensive history in skimo and qualified for the Olympics, and I think that's kind of a neat story to follow.
Do you watch them run? Oh, you said hike uphill. They are like running
Hike.
uphill in their ski boots, and it is just an incredible feat.
Do
that
they
they're
ski
able to
uphill though? Part of it, right? Or no? Is it just
yes.
okay? I'm like
I
maybe I
believe
have the wrong
so. And
thing.
then but part of it, I've seen them take it off and run.
Okay.
And I just can't imagine the discomfort of running up a ski hill in your ski boots. And how high your heart rate is when you're then putting on your skis to ski back down.
And they're not like
And you're
traditional
skiing back down on
downhill.
skinny skis.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the part
Which
I've heard
makes
is very
me-
sketchy, is like that you're going downhill on
Yes.
like pretty
And you're going
like
downhill fast. And they can't pizza. They can't do anything. They're just kind of like holding on, and then they're trying to go fast, which I'm excited to watch it.
yes, it'll be fun. I also love the fashion. I love winter fashion, and I'm excited for the opening ceremonies to see what all the different countries are wearing. And I like the different outfits, and I love a good coat. I think, Winter Olympics are great for seeing a good coat.
Yeah, historically, Lululemon has sponsored the Canadian team, and I feel like some of the stuff that they wear is just so lovely. But I agree, winter fashion is fantastic.
We can be inspired for our own winter adventures. Katie, it's been
Yes.
so fun catching up with you. I'm so glad we got to do this, and I appreciate you crowdsourcing some questions for us. And I'm excited to watch the Olympics. Thank you for all the updates, and we'll have
Yeah.
to catch up afterwards and talk more about how you're feeling going into New Zealand, what's happened in this last month leading into race day, and your favorite Olympic moments.
Yeah, I'm excited to catch back up. I hope you have a lovely evening.